Blessings and welcome to today's Law Enforcement Daily Devotional. Today we're in John chapter 4, Matthew chapter 4, verses 12 through 17, Mark chapter 1, verses 14 and 15, and then Luke chapter 4, verses 14 through 30. A lot of good reading today, not a whole lot of overlap like there was yesterday. So we start out in John chapter 4, and it's the familiar story of the Samaritan woman at the well. And just a little bit of background on this. And you see it as you read, but you've got to really understand the history between the Samaritans and the Jews. You think we have race relation problems in the United States, and we do. But I think they pale in comparison to how much the Jews hated the Samaritans. As you go through some of the Bible stories, even Jesus, when he told parables, he would use the Samaritan as the epitome of the Jewish enemy. When he talks about the Good Samaritan, the Samaritan was the one that all the Jews would have thought would just kick a Jewish man while he was down and wouldn't help him. And Jesus contrasts that with him being a Good Samaritan. So when Jesus talks to the Samaritan woman at the well, it is a big deal. First off, that a man would talk to a woman was kind of taboo. I mean, without people around, it culturally was not really acceptable. And then on the top of that, the fact that she was a Samaritan really made this story something that people would just, oh man, oh my gosh, Jesus is talking to a Samaritan woman. And then as the story goes along, and it's a really cool picture how Jesus asks her for water. And she's like, you're a Jew. You're asking me for water. Besides, you don't have anything to drink from. And talks about the well, which really nails down the exact place they're in geographically in the area. And then Jesus says, hey, if you knew the water that I give, the living water, you'd never be thirsty and you'd be asking me for it. So Jesus starts preparing her in this conversation to receive him. And then in verse 26, Jesus reveals his identity. He says, I am the Christ. You know the Messiah is coming. I'm he. And Jesus says, we worship what we know. You worship what you don't know. So Jesus reveals to her who he is so she will know what she's worshiping. She goes into the village, gathers all the villagers, and in verse 30, it says, then they went out of the city and were coming to him. Now this is the city. These are the people that are coming out of the city to come see Jesus. So Jesus sees all these people in their white robes coming out of the city. And they're not there yet, but he can see them coming. All the disciples have come back. They can see them coming. And Jesus says to the disciples, and don't miss this, in verse 35 he says, do you not say there are yet 4 months, and then comes the harvest? Behold, I tell you, lift up your eyes and look on the fields, that they are white for harvest. All the people are coming out wearing white, and Jesus is saying, this is your harvest. These are the crops you want to harvest. You want to harvest them for God. And then he goes on, and they spend 2 days with Jesus teaching them how to share the good news of the gospel with people. And it says many of them came to know Christ. So Jesus went to their enemies and shared life with them. And that's an example for all of us. We've got to get past all the prejudices and the hates of this world and go to the people that are considered our enemy and share life with them. In John's gospel, there's no account of the centurion of great faith. We're moving on to another part here. But this is important because it will come up big time in some of our future reads, or at least I hope it does. There's no story, no account of the centurion of great faith in here. So when John goes straight to the story of the royal official whose son is dying in the city of Capernaum, Remember that city, Capernaum. It's going to be big. It is big. We miss out on, to me, one of the most important aspects of this whole story of the royal official coming to Jesus, because the royal official knows who he is. And he has enough faith to know that Jesus can just say the word and his son will be healed. And he trusts Jesus and takes him at his word, and he turns and goes back home. That is incredible faith in and of itself. But this royal official didn't just learn it on his own. He learned it from the centurion of great faith, which, again, we'll save that for another day because that's not in John's account, and it's nowhere in our read today. But just keep that in the back of your mind. We're going to come back to this royal official from Capernaum. And then in Matthew, when we finish John 4 and go to Matthew 4:13, it tells us Jesus settles in Capernaum. It's preparing us to understand the significance of this city and what it means to Jesus' ministry. So just keep that in the back of your mind. When we get into Luke chapter 4, verse 27, Jesus is telling the crowd in the synagogue that when Elijah was around, only Gentiles were being blessed. Only Gentiles, not Jews. He said Elijah blessed the Gentiles. The Jews, again, are very prejudiced, and they seem to forget about those things, those stories. But Jesus is hinting around that he's coming to reveal one of the great mysteries, and that is the fact that he came for the Jews and the Gentiles. Thank you, Lord, that you came for us Gentiles. It was a good read today. Tomorrow, we're not going to be in John, but we're going to start out in Mark, reading Mark 1:16 through 45, Matthew 4, verses 18 through 25, then chapter 8, verses 2, 3, and 4, then chapters 14 through 17. So there's quite a bit of read in Matthew. Then we're going to finish up in Luke chapter 4, verse 31 through chapter 5, verse 6. Come back here ready to get a law enforcement takeaway, and in the meantime, you guys be safe.